Hello friends, welcome to another video from my series Quick Thoughts On, in which I always talk about different stories from the rich Star Trek universe. This episode is going to be about a classic Star Trek episode called Assignment Earth, which premiered on NBC 50 years and 2 weeks ago, and these are my honest opinions about it. We get a shot of Kirk and Spock in 1960s outfits on the streets of, I think, New York. Almost like a reminder to us that we are indeed watching a Star Trek episode. And we soon meet the Jar Jar Binks of this episode, Roberta Lincoln. Gary mistakenly thinks that she's the female agent and demands from her the report where she has been in the last 3 days because of what is, let's face it, his own stupidity. He shows her secret gadgets like the voice-controlled typewriter or the iCube, but he soon realizes his mistake and his green cube tells him that she was just a secretary and she thought that her employers were working on a new encyclopedia. And we are told that she is very intelligent. If you are like me, you would expect that this is foreshadowing, that in the end she will save the day by doing something extremely smart, but no. We are just told that she's very intelligent, but we don't see anything of it. On contrary, she looks pretty dumb, to be honest. Gary 7 pretends that he's a CIA agent and that she is working on a mission of national security, and he manages to trick her into thinking that she will do something for her country. Because she's so smart, she believes him without any evidence. Kirk and Spock, meanwhile, storm the office. Roberta calls the cops, but when she takes off Spock's hat, she notices his ears and freaks out. Meanwhile, Gary finds out what happened to the two agents and why they didn't sabotage the rocket, and it looks like both of them died on the way there in a car accident. Because apparently going to the launch site with a car was the only way, right? Well, Gary decides it is his mission now and goes to the launch site using his teleporter safe. So, why did the two agents use a car instead of safely beaming there through the safe? I first thought that they would be too suspicious, but Gary materializes in a building in front of a man and walks around a secured area with a cat, and absolutely nobody gives a damn. Meanwhile, the police officers arrive at the office. When Roberta lets them in, they get accidentally beamed to the Enterprise together with Kirk and Spock, and they immediately get beamed back. Wow, this shocking experience has to influence them tremendously, right? Well, I don't know. We never see the cops again. So, why was this in the episode? Why did they pay 2 more actors to appear in a completely pointless scene? Back at NASA, or wherever this should take place, some guard finally notices that a guy with a cat should probably not be there, but Gary sends him to Slumberland using his definitely not sonic screwdriver. Scotty, meanwhile, on the Enterprise hacks the satellites and for some reason is able to get perfect footage of the rocket. Funny, I thought that satellites can shoot footage from the top and not from the angles which we can see in this episode, but what do I know? Gary, of course, meanwhile, without any problems, gets to the rocket. The very intelligent Roberta messes around in the office and using the pen she finds the hidden safe and starts playing with it. Meanwhile, Gary and Isis play with the rocket. Kirk and Spock get arrested and Scotty beams Gary away. but Roberta beams him to the office by pure accident. So now he has to work from the office. Roberta finally realizes that Gary wants to destroy the rocket and tries to call help, but Gary blows up the phone. But she manages to smack him on the head and hold him on gunpoint. Spock pinches his guard and both of them get beamed to the office, where Roberta aims the pen on him, threatening to kill him. Then Spock and Kirk try to undo the damage he has done, and Roberta suddenly screams that they should believe him? Why? What changed her motivation during a scene? Seriously, why does nothing in this episode make sense? Thankfully, I guess, Spock and Kirk let Gary do what he wants to do. He blows up the rocket, and for some reason that is considered to be a good thing for peace. I'm just going to pretend that it's a good solution, because the episode is basically over. Gary writes his reports, or dictates his report to be more precise, and we are told the final insult. Everything happened exactly as the historical records show. So, wait a moment. The Enterprise crew knew from day one what will exactly happen. So, why exactly did they go to the past to find out what will happen? I'm sorry, but the more I think about this episode, the less sense it makes to me. And Roberta suddenly notices that Isis is a woman. For no specific reason, she turns into a half-naked woman for one scene, and then she turns into the Black Cat again. Maybe it should be explained in the TV show, which never happened, I don't know, we will never know. And this is the end of Assignment Earth, and the end of Star Trek Season 2. And what they thought then, end of Star Trek. Does it work? Well, hard to tell. It would be very unfair to rate this episode as a Star Trek episode, because it feels like the characters you used to fall in love with are just guest stars in their own show. I don't really think it's a good way how to end your show, is it? So, if I don't think about this as a Star Trek episode, I must admit that it's pretty enjoyable. But there are way too many illogical things happening in this episode. It feels like Art wrote his version in one afternoon, Gene wrote his version in another afternoon, and they mechanically joined it together in a third afternoon. It just feels rushed and not very well thought through. When you are watching a TV show and can't really enjoy the story because you have to constantly ask yourself questions like what, who, or why, there is a problem. So, what about a numerical rating for this one? Well, I was thinking very hard about this one, and on my usual scale from 0 to 10, where 0 is complete garbage, 5 is average, and 10 is a masterpiece, I think that giving this 5 out of 10 would be pretty fair. I think that it's a pretty bad Star Trek episode, but at the same time it's pretty enjoyable, even though at some times completely illogical, quote-unquote, something else. Some final words on Season 2. Even though Season 2 had many great episodes, I must admit that overall I think I like it a bit less than Season 1. It probably has something to do with the story editor. During the beginning of the first season, John D.F. Black was the head writer. After he left the production team, after some fights with Roddenberry, Gene L. Coon was hired to do the job. And to be honest, the episodes done under his watch belong to my favorites. Unfortunately, during the second season, he also left, even though he returned as a writer for Season 3, and his work was taken over by John Meredith Lucas. And this second half of the show wasn't that good, to say it politely. It wasn't horrible or anything, but I feel a certain decline in quality in the scripts. and it got worse, much worse during the third season. But the third season will have to wait for a few months, but overall, season 2, in my opinion, was still very good, just not as good as the second half of season 1. But as always, everything in this video were just my opinions. Feel free to write down your opinions down in the comment section. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that thumbs up button, and if you have some free time, feel free to check any of the other stuff on my channel. You should see links to some playlists on screen right now. And I will continue with the rest of the first season of the Next Generation starting next week. So, thank you very much for watching and see you soon. Bye.